Good morning. This is going to be our final video and we're going to be talking about book reports. So this week we're going to be doing a book report, and this will be the same way you will be doing the book report during the summer months, because as soon as you end first grade, you will be second graders. That means you're almost second graders. Oh my goodness, isn't that amazing? So I am going to teach you how to do your summer book report. We're going to do it right now. We're going to do it for this week as a practice, and then we're going to do it, you're going to do it on your own during the summer. But you can have this video to look at should you forget. All right? So let's begin with prayer. Come, Holy Spirit, fill the hearts of your faithful, and kindle in us the fire of your love. Send forth your Spirit, and they shall be created, and thou shalt renew the face of the earth. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sanctis. Amen. I chose the tale of Benjamin Bunny to write about, especially since you just finished reading it last week. So if you remember the story, it's a really fun story. Well, we'll talk about what it's all about by writing it down. So there are two templates, and I'm going to show you the first one. It's called a pre-writing template. It looks like this. So you'll see this part right here that says preliminary. That means it's first. It's not the one that you're going to hand in, but it's the one that's going to help you put everything together so that you can write it, the final version, well. Okay? On here, you'll see that I wrote, it says here, actually right down here, it says here, jot down information and ideas. You'll see that in these papers, the ones that are horizontal, the preliminary work, I am going to write without having to worry about sentences. I'm just going to write down things as they come to my mind, and I won't put them in sentence form. So it says here, title, and underneath it says name of book, and I'll put The Tale of Benjamin Bunny, because, where'd it go? There it is, it's hiding. That's what it's called right there. You guys remember how to find the title of a book, right? The Tale of Benjamin Bunny. Then underneath, I'm going to write down author, who wrote the book, by Beatrix Potter. See? You remember how to find the author. It's who it's written by Beatrix Potter. Usually it's in the front of the book. If not, it's on the inside. Then we have something right here, setting. Setting for us who are first graders, and for your summer book report, second grade, beginning second graders, setting means where did the story take place. Well, if we look at the story, we'll see that it's kind of like in an area outside of Mr. McGregor's garden, and then inside Mr. McGregor's garden, right? So I am going to call this area the field, because it looks like a field. There is no garden in it. So I am going to say, it takes place in a field and in Mr. McGregor's garden. Make sure you got your spelling everything correctly, okay? Then it says characters. Who or what is the story about? Now I have some numbers here, so I begin to write the characters according to the way I find them in the story. The first one I find in the story, where'd it go, is Benjamin. And then Peter. And then a cat. And then, Mr. McGregor, oh no, Mr. Bunny. Mr. Bunny, right? That's his last name, Bunny, because it's Benjamin Bunny. Bunny is their last name. So Mr. Bunny, and then we find Mr. McGregor, and we find Mrs. Rabbit, because Peter Rabbit. Rabbit is the last name. That's why her name is Mrs. Rabbit, right? Mrs. Rabbit. All right. So I find all these characters and I wrote them down. Then I thought about it and well, we're not going to go through there. I just wrote them down. And there's nothing underneath that, so I can go to the next page. There's a next page. And I'm going to look at that side right there. And it says, beginning, middle, and end. And then it says problem, solution, and theme. Main truth of the story, lesson learned, or moral of the story. Whoops, you can't see that, can you? Right down here. That's what that says. Now, on the top of this page says, what happened in the story? So that means I'm going to be retelling some of the story here in the beginning, middle, and end. So in the beginning of the story, we saw that Benjamin goes to visit cousins. That's what I remembered. And then Peter and B, see B, I didn't want to write Benjamin all over again, so I put B period. Peter and Benjamin, since I already wrote Benjamin, I can put B period. Peter and Benjamin go into Mr. McGregor's, and I only put G because I already have name McGregor in here, don't I? Mr. McGregor's garden. So I'm just going to put Mr. G's garden to get Peter's clothes. And then what happens in the middle? These are the way I remember it. It's they get clothes. They hear noises. They see the cat. They hide under basket. And then cat sits on basket. That's how I remember the sequence of events, how they happened. And then at the end, I see Mr. Bunny rescues them. They get scolded. They go home. And that was the end of the story. They get safely home, don't they? Now here's another problem. Another question. The thing we have to think about is problem. What was the problem in the story? Do you remember something that was difficult? Did they get stuck? Benjamin and Peter are trapped under basket. That's what I thought was the time when it was so scary. That's when it was a problem. And a solution? Well, Mr. Bunny chases the cat away. That was the solution of the problem, right? So you think of a problem and how did it get resolved? What was the solution to the problem? And then you ask yourself, what lesson did I learn from the story? Well, you know what I learned is I learned that from then on, I was going to ask Dad for help first before going into dangerous situations. That could have ended badly, couldn't it? So this is my first part. See right here? My first step is my preliminary template. This is my preliminary template. I go ahead and fill it in, and I have the no sentences are necessary. I can just write my thoughts. No periods, no end. I will capitalize correctly though, so I don't have to go through and think that through. What is my second step? My second step is to edit the preliminary template. So that means I'm going to take this off. And now that we know that we have a second step, and I am going to take a look at this and say, well, I better make sure I have this underlined. So I'm going to underline it in red. I'm going to change the color of my writing tool, and I'm going to write down underline title so I don't forget. Very important. All titles must be underlined when we are writing. Then I don't see anything wrong with anything here because I made sure that everything was spelled correctly. But then I made a note to myself. It says not as important. And see how I didn't spell important right? Yep. So I made sure that important was spelled right, and then I changed my I forget what this is called. It's not a bracket, but I changed it from here to here because the ones that were not important were Mr. McGregor and Mrs. Rabbit. But Benjamin, Peter, the cat, and Mr. Bunny, Benjamin's dad, were very important, weren't they? All right, so now I know 3 of them are important, 2 of them are not. Right down there. Then I look through here. Do you want to see my edited version? There are 2 ways to edit this. Scary. It's really not scary. It just looks scary, doesn't it? But what I did here is I took and I looked at my work and I said, how can I make them into sentences? But another way to do this is, besides making sure that you have everything spelled correctly and that everything is in the correct tense, like everything matches. If I say yesterday, then everything has to be past tense. So after I do that, I am going to think through. So I made sure that all my sentences were spelled correct. All my words were spelled correctly. Everything was said in the correct way, and my capitalization was capitalized. My words were capitalized correctly. The ones that were capitalized. I'm going to go down to my 3rd step. I'm going to write sentences. Now notice the first one did not need that sentences. But now my 3rd step, I'm going to make sure that I do have sentences. I'm going to write sentences in book report template. This is not my book report template. My book report template is vertical. See the difference? Horizontal, vertical. Okay? Whoops, I had it upside down, didn't I? I will write sentences in the book report template. So now, let's see how I transitioned from this page to this page. Okay? So, it says here, let's start with the first page, right? Let's make sure I have the right sequence here. All right. Now, right here, it says title. And I just have the tale of Benjamin Bunny. But that's not a complete sentence. How will I write a complete sentence? Well, I can start with the title is. The title of the book I read is The Tale of Benjamin Bunny. And it's a declarative sentence, so I have a period right there. You see how easy that was? Now for my next one, I did something a little differently. It says here, by Beatrix Potter, the author. Do you see that? But instead of saying the author is Beatrix Potter, which you could do, you can also say the book was written by Beatrix Potter. But I chose to start with her name. Beatrix Potter wrote this book. And then I put a period at the end because it's a declarative sentence. Isn't that good? Well, done? Yes, that's a good way to do it, correct? All right, so there are different ways to write these sentences. You can just say the title is, the author is, but there are creative ways by starting with the name of the author and saying Beatrix Potter, what did she do? Wrote this book. On the setting, do you remember it said, I wrote down it was field and Mr. McGregor's garden? Well, now I need to have a complete sentence, And so, how will I put this? Well, I can say this story takes place in a field and in Mr. McGregor's garden. I'm sure you could have done that, and you could have figured that out, huh? All right, on characters, remember that I wrote down characters here? The two main characters were Benjamin and Peter. Here I have, the story is about Benjamin Bunny and Peter Rabbit. I included their last names, right? And I put a period at the end, made sure it's a complete thought. That's why it's called a sentence, a complete thought. We also hear about Mr. Bunny. Remember Mr. Bunny right here, down here on number 4. We also hear about Mr. Bunny and Mr. McGregor's cat. I chose to put whose cat it was because then we know it's going to be a little tricky. Now, be careful. What does it say here? It says theme. Did we have theme next here? Oh my, no, we didn't. We had it at the very end because we had to think through the story to find what we learned or what the lesson of the story or the moral of the story was. But now we have to write it up here. Make sure you put it in the right spot. Remember, it's going to be at the end in our preliminary, but it's going to be right after our characters in our book report form, our finalized book report form. And it's called Retelling a Story. Our book report form is called Retelling a Story. So our theme is, remember how I had written it? Ask Dad for help first. Right down here, I want to make sure that you see it. Right here it says, ask Dad for help first. Well, I know that's a complete sentence, but that doesn't give the whole thought of what I want to say about the theme or the lesson. So I put, get help from Dad before going somewhere dangerous. You can also write down, I learned that we should get help from our dads before going somewhere dangerous. You could write any way that makes sense to you, but as long as it's a complete sentence, right? Now here it says problem. Where did we see that? We actually saw it here, down here, after we had already done our beginning, middle, and end. So be careful that you write what they ask for in the right sequence. Okay, be very careful, please. It says here problem, and there's a reason why they go here this way and they go here this way. It's not to confuse you. So here, because it's the sequence of a story is actually the way we're going to be learning how we put it together. But here, it's how we get to those thoughts. So that's the reason why we have to change it. Be careful. Where it says problem, let's look at my problem. I had Benjamin and Peter are trapped under basket. That's not a complete thought. But let's see how we transfer it over to make it a complete thought. Peter and Benjamin get stuck under a basket for 5 hours because of the cat in Mr. McGregor's garden. Do you see that? That's a complete thought. And now I understand the problem. The problem, that's a scary problem if you're a rabbit. Now let's go to the second page of our book report form. Okay, now we start telling the beginning, the middle, and the end. Do you see the box? It shows us the beginning, middle, and end. Okay, so here's my beginning. I went from Benjamin goes to visit cousins and things like that. I thought about it and then I said, well, the beginning then will go, Benjamin helps Peter get his clothes from Mr. McGregor's garden. And then the middle, I rewrote to say, they're able to get Peter's clothes, but they have to hide from the cat. They get trapped when the cat sits on the basket they're hiding under. And the end right here is, Mr. Bunny rescued them, and after being scolded, they get home safely. And down here, it says solution. Well, solution? Solution to what? Solution to the problem, right? How the problem is solved. Remember the problem over here? Right here? Well, the solution is Mr. Bunny wasn't afraid of the cat, so he chased it away from the basket. And that is my finalized book report right there. And this, make sure you have your name, your date. AMDG is already on the very top. And this is what you will hand in when you come in the first day of second grade. But for this coming week, this is the way we're going to do it. Ready? We're going to do the first step, the preliminary template, no sentences necessary. Second step is you edit the preliminary template. So this is Monday, this is Tuesday, this is Wednesday. Third step, write sentences in book report template. Oops, that does not say template, does it? See, even Mrs. Mayer has to edit. There we go, template. There we go. And it says edit. Look at punctuation, capitalization, spelling, grammar. And the fourth step, on Thursday, you will finalize your final draft. Make sure you read it, make sure it makes sense, and you will then be finished so you can hand it in. And then you'll be ready. See how easy that was? Not really. It's a lot of work, but we learn so much when we're going through this. All right, if you have any questions, don't forget to have your mom text me, email me, or call me. Have a blessed day. Bye.